These two brothers were experienced fishers and thought they could fish quietly. They hadn't spoken to each other in a while and thought their love for fishing was the perfect opportunity to bring them together and reconnect. What they didn't know was that their fishing trip would soon turn into a nightmare, because what the brothers didn't realize was that they weren't alone. Something was spying on them from within the tall grass beside them. But before we start, smash the like button and make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. The brothers were licensed and experienced fishermen, which allowed them to fish in such a beautiful nature reserve. The morning was calm and peaceful, with the occasional bird song in the distance. As the hours passed, the brothers caught 0 fish, but they didn't care much about it. They were just happy to be in each other's company. Derek was almost ready for retirement and shared his struggles, while Justin told his brother about how he sprained his ankle. The day was perfect, and they had the time of their lives. But that would soon change, because not too far from them, in the tall grass, sat something watching them. Its eyes were fixed on the brothers, observing every move, waiting for the right moment to strike. They continued to fish and chat, unaware of the predator watching their every move. The sky darkened as the afternoon wore on, and the wind picked up. The brothers decided to stay for 30 more minutes, and after that, they would pack up their gear and head back to the car. The brothers sat silently and enjoyed the last few moments of the day together. It had been very quiet and peaceful until then, but suddenly, the tall grass around them began to rustle violently. Derek turned around and looked at what could have caused the movement. Probably the wind, he said shruggingly. But in fact, there was no wind. Meanwhile, the predator placed itself in the perfect position to strike when the time came. It waited patiently for the time to strike, and then that time came. Because as fate would have it, a stranger was nearby who did see the danger lurking near the brothers. He was a bird watcher who followed a trail of rare ivory-billed woodpeckers to this exact location. This man was well equipped for these surroundings and held the tool that made the discovery in his hands. The camera had followed the bird's trajectory perfectly and accidentally crossed paths with the brothers and the danger nearby. Then the birdwatcher noticed the two brothers fishing. He was immediately taken in by the beauty of the scene. The sun was setting and gave a nice glow to the sky, while the men sat closely together. This was too nice to ignore, so he took a pause from birdwatching and decided to take a picture of the situation, not knowing this decision would possibly save the lives of the fishermen. A smile appeared on the photographer's face as he clicked the button and got ready to check the result, but then the hairs on his neck stood up, and his skin went from a soft pink to a blank pale. There was something his camera captured that he hadn't seen himself. He had to do something. So the birdwatcher dropped everything, including his camera, and rushed down the hill toward the two fishermen. The man ran down and tried to get the brothers' attention. Now, both Justin and Derek stood up and turned toward the running man. The brother couldn't make out what he was saying, and the frantic gestures didn't make any sense. When the two brothers unexpectedly moved, the rustling sound from the tall grass momentarily stopped. But the moment the predator knew he was still undiscovered, he continued with his hunt. A mix of confusion and interest filled the air, as their attention was fully on the figure running down the hill. Their backs were turned toward the tall grass, another mistake. But then the screams of the man started to make sense. "What is that?" Derek asked while he tried to focus. "Run! Watch out! Behind you!" The man screamed, and the fear on his face indicated something terrible was behind the brothers. The brothers were frozen on the spot. It was as if the terror of the running man was contagious. The rustling of the tall grass behind them became more prominent. The screams of the man faded away, and a new sound arose. A low hissing sound, followed by a big splash. "Get away now!" the man screamed again. The weird combination of hissing and splashing caused the brothers to turn around and take a look. A massive creature surfaced in the water and revealed itself. It was a gigantic alligator over 12 feet long. Its mouth was wide open, showing its sharp teeth, and its eyes were fixed on the two brothers while it charged straight at them. Justin and Derek froze for a second, but then instinct took over. They turned around and saw the man was already running back up the hill, and they followed. The other man soon fell out of view while the brothers ran up the hill as fast as they could. They could hear the alligator's heavy breathing and claws digging into the ground as it chased them. They knew they had to find a way to outsmart it, or they would be its next meal. Their minds raced, trying to get away, but nothing came to mind. They reached the top of the hill and ran into the forest, the alligator's snapping jaw following behind. The brothers looked up at the tree before them and saw the man from earlier. It seemed like an impossible feat, but with no better option, the brothers decided to listen to the stranger. As they waited for help to arrive, the men finally had a moment to catch their breath and reflect on the day's events. It suddenly started to make sense why they hadn't caught any fish, and the tall grasses rustling was also explained. "Why did the alligator attack us?" Justin said, voicing his troubled thoughts. "An alligator doesn't usually attack humans unless provoked or in danger." The brothers peered down at the alligator, who was slowly crouching around. "Look if you see anything unusual," Justin said, when he saw the birdwatcher asked what they were doing. But right after, Derek suddenly exclaimed, "The alligator was wounded. It had a metallic strap around his hind leg and tails. That's why it was so aggressive." The situation just became even more weird, as it took an unexpected turn with the discovery of the alligator's injury. What was the metallic strap, and how did it get there? Then the birdwatcher thinks about his camera. It was a long shot, but perhaps it caught something he couldn't see with his eyes for a second time. The brothers watched the birdwatcher rummage in his bag for a second time and retrieve a camera. The screen lit up his face in the dark and showed a surprised expression. "It captured a video," he said. The man looked at the footage and saw himself run down the hill to warn the brothers. "Nothing much, just us running," he said as he handed it to the brothers. But they saw something else. As the brothers watched the footage closely, they noticed a small, shiny object falling off the alligator during the chase. It appeared suddenly, glinting in the fading sunlight before disappearing into the tall grass. The brothers thought aloud, and the birdwatcher also chimed in, but it was interrupted when their discussion reached its peak. First, they noticed the swaying headlights, but soon after, they heard the snapping of branches under the car's weight. Help had finally arrived. The ranger slowly approached with his SUV, making sure the alligator was well in sight, and eventually got out of his car to examine the peculiar situation. The ranger quickly realized there was no option but to tranquilize the massive alligator. It was the only way to ensure everyone's safety. Once the alligator was tranquilized, the ranger inspected it and was furious to find it harmed. He suspected the men had something to do with it and intended to arrest them. However, the brothers and the birdwatcher protested and quickly showed him the footage. The ranger watched the video with great interest and was baffled by the men's story. He quickly realized they were innocent and were actually victims. After the misunderstanding was cleared up, Justin, Derek, and the birdwatcher explained their thoughts to the ranger, who was quick to agree. Something wrong was definitely going on around here, but he had to find out what exactly, and these men could help him. When he asked if the others could lead him to the hill, they were eager to help. So, not much later, the group ventured back, determined to find the shiny object. However, once the group arrived back at the hill, the sun was already gone and fully dark. Luckily, both the ranger and the birdwatcher had some flashlights with them. They scour the ground in pairs when the brothers suddenly pierce the silence. "What's that?" The others quickly join them, and the group is shocked to find a snare lying in the grass. "Someone is trying to trap the animals," the birdwatcher whispered. The group was shocked to discover a snare trap, understanding the gravity of such illegal activity in the nature reserve. This couldn't be allowed to continue, posing a threat to wildlife and safety. Realizing the urgency, they contacted the police, and once officers arrived, they briefed them on the situation. Early in the morning, Justin, Derek, and the birdwatcher joined the police as they returned to the nature reserve early in the morning to begin their investigation. They started at the fishing spot, where the brothers encountered the wounded alligator for the first time and carefully combed through the tall grass in the area. The search party quickly gathered around the officer, who shouted and was shocked to see multiple traps and snares, ready and armed, lying in the tall grass. The alligator chasing the brothers had been giant, so it managed to avoid being trapped. Then they noticed the ranger's SUV approaching. The ranger explained he had been patrolling the nature reserve, looking for signs of activity. The brothers brought him up to speed, and at the mention of the snares, the ranger rushed toward the police officers. The ranger explained to the group that this particular snare was not just any trap. It was equipped with GPS technology and an alarm system. This meant that whoever set it up would be instantly notified the moment it was activated. Everything moved quickly after that, as the group started crafting the perfect plan to trick the trappers into revealing themselves swiftly and safely. While the police carefully placed the traps and snares back like they were before, Justin and Derek scoured the nearby area for materials. Their goal was simple yet creative: to construct a convincing fake alligator. The day passed and the anticipation grew, but there was no sign of the criminals. Then dusk fell, and still nothing was heard or seen. But then, an officer at the edge of the perimeter radioed in. "There is movement here," he called, and a surge of energy went over the party. The officer who reported it was only a few minutes away, so the group peered through the darkness while holding their breath. Then they saw it. Barely visible, they saw a couple of figures moving through in the dark and heading straight for the tall grass where decoy and snares lay hidden. On the officer's signal, everyone clicked their flashlights and aimed them at the trappers. In the center of it all stood a group of 3 surprised individuals, frantically looking around with their hands up. The surprise and terror were visible on their face. They were caught red-handed. That was enough for the police, as it gave them the ideal opportunity to arrest the men and transport them to the station for further questioning. And once there, the dark activities of the trio would soon come to light. Once the home addresses were known, several officers visited them and searched the premises. There, they discovered a grim scene: animals trapped in cages, several stuffed animals, and all kinds of animal skins, revealing a long history of illegal trapping and poaching activities. The brothers and birdwatchers were delighted to see the scene unfold before them. Even to them, it was obvious this case was done and dusted. Furthermore, the findings at the homes of the trappers made the case even more solid, and they were put behind bars after a swift trial. After the trial was completed, Justin, Derek, the birdwatcher, and the ranger were invited back to the police station. There, the police force extended their gratitude toward them, a reminder of this incredible story and adventure they survived. They thanked the birdwatcher for this gift and re-watched the footage with broad smiles once they were home. They had been taught a hard lesson. Inspired by their ordeal and the successful capture of the trappers, Justin and Derek decided to share their story and the footage with the media. The tale of their harrowing experience, combined with the dramatic footage, quickly went viral. They hoped that by sharing their story, they would not only entertain, but also educate the public on the dangers and responsibilities of outdoor activities, turning their mistakes into lessons for others.